Hey everybody, it's Mike and welcome to Chip Damage. And today we're talking Like a Dragon. Yes, we are talking the Yakuza series of games. Games very near and dear to my heart, so I'm super excited to be talking about them today. So, if you don't know what the Yakuza games are, they are Sega's new cash cow. It started as a niche title that was released way too late on the PlayStation 2 and has blown up to the point where it has a seventh main entry that is proudly touted as a launch title on the Xbox Series X. So, yeah, it's really grown. The series is got a ton of spin-offs and is almost out of control. And before we get to that point, I want to take an overview of the series. I want to talk about what the series is, why it's so beloved, and then go through each of the titles and tell you what I think about them and where you should begin if you're a newcomer. And that's not always obvious to new people, so please bear with me as we go through that. And if you already have started this series, hopefully you'll learn something new today. So let's get to it, shall we? And I just want to mention before jumping into it that if you enjoy what you're about to see, I've also done a video like this on the Final Fantasy series where I give you my recommendations and a brief overview of the series. So if you haven't, please check that out if you like what you're about to see here. But let's get started. What is Yakuza? So Yakuza is a series of JRPGs with real-time beat-em-up combat starring Kazuma Kiryu, the handsome silver-suited gentleman that you see here. And they're all set in modern-day Japan. Particularly, they always start in Kamurocho, a red light district of Tokyo. That is a fictionalized version of a real part of Tokyo called Kabukicho. But yes, Kamurocho. And they center around the Yakuza underworld, the Japanese gangster underworld. Kazuma comes from that world. He was raised in the Yakuza. And after a series of events, he is wrongfully imprisoned for 10 years. And once he gets out, the world flips upside down. And that's where his adventure begins. Like I said, it's real-time combat, punches, kicks, and you level them up. You learn new moves. Weapons are available everywhere. Everything in your vicinity that isn't bolted down is a weapon. Trash cans, traffic cones, bicycles, mopeds, baseball bats, any knives or guns that you pick up on the ground, they're all weapons for you to use to beat your enemies senseless. However, if you think just because you're a gangster in the city that these games are like Grand Theft Auto, please don't. That's not what these are. That mini-map in the bottom corner of Yakuza may be misleading because that gives it that Grand Theft Auto look, but they really don't play anything like that. You don't drive in these games. Firearms are barely used, and even though you're a gangster running around the city, the story has an entirely different tone. Yakuza has very serious tones throughout. However, it has incredibly irreverent side missions that can just be really fun and wacky if you want to blow off some steam and kind of step away from all the seriousness of the main story. That's one of the draws. You don't just have to go through the stories. You can do a ton of side activities, such as going to Sega arcades and playing classic Sega games on the machines, like Virtua Fighter, Puyo Puyo, Space Harrier. Yeah, and I think like every numbered entry of Virtua Fighter is there, like 1 through 5 throughout the series. Every Yakuza has different games in the arcade. There are batting cages. There are karaoke lounges that are like rhythm games. There are hostesses clubs, basically places where you go to like have a date talk to you for the night. It's very Japanese. It doesn't really... There's no real equivalent to something like here in the United States, maybe Hooters, I don't know. But yeah, the amount of events you could do is really staggering, and they're varied throughout the series. So instead of me repeating myself throughout the entire video, yeah, just keep in mind that if you don't want to blow through the super serious stories that I'll quickly go through, go to the arcade, have some fun. That's always an option in Yakuza. So anyway, continuing on. Kiryu himself, Kazuma Kiryu, very straight-laced fellow, has a face like a stone brick, like a very serious glare, but he's a kind-hearted guy. He's willing to help people out, and that's where your side missions come in. He's willing to help his friends and even newcomers, put his life on the line for them, and he's a really cool character for that. He's become one of my favorite fictional characters, and I can see why this series has blown up. It's mostly because of, well, him. There's also a huge cast of side characters that that come and go throughout the series. But one of the main ones that I want to talk about real quick is Goro Majima, almost like the mascot of the series. He is another Yakuza member in the Tojo clan, the clan that Kiryu is from, the largest clan in Tokyo. He is kind of like Kazuma's self-proclaimed rival. He has like a Joker vibe. He is just wacky, very unpredictable. He's a good guy at heart, but you do not want to mess with him. And him and Kazuma butt heads throughout the series a lot, and their interactions are some of my favorite in the game. But those are two characters that you will see, especially Kiryu, throughout the entire series, so keep that in mind. So, yeah, and where to begin with this series? Well, where else? Let's talk the game, shall we? Let's talk Yakuza 1. And its re-release on PlayStation 4, Yakuza Kiwami. So, like I mentioned before, Yakuza begins with Kiryu being wrongly imprisoned for 10 years. And when he gets out, his whole world is flipped upside down. He was a member of the Tojo clan, like I said, but when he gets out, that's all different. He's kicked out of the clan. People he thought were friends become enemies. 10 billion yen goes missing from the Tojo clan's vault, and that threatens to rip the clan apart internally. So it's up to Kazuma to get involved in that underworld again and try to save his old friends, try to stop the city from tearing itself apart. And along the way, he runs into a young girl, Haruka, who becomes like his daughter. Haruka is another main character of the Yakuza series, and her bond with Kazuma is one of the strongest points of the series. It's something that you really come to appreciate as the game goes on. But yeah, Yakuza 1 has a fantastic plot. Like I said, you're in the dark for a lot of it because this is a new world to you. Kazuma is very good at kind of explaining it, but it fills in as you go. The mystery, what's going on, why is the money missing, why have some of your older friends betrayed you. It's fantastic, and it is the place I suggest you start. However, definitely go with the Kiwami version if you can. The PS2 version has a charm being an older game. It has that, old school PS2 look where there's like aliasing and like there's a certain kind of blocky, flat charm to it, but it is very buggy, unfortunately. This game has a tendency to kind of stutter, and the combat is just atrocious. Even though it's like just a 3D beat 'em up, you can't lock onto anything. It's hard to hit what you want to hit. They really fixed that with Kiwami on PS4. Kiwami also added cutscenes that really flesh out the villains and the backstory. There's new side missions. This is the version you want to get. This is exactly where I would start. This is also available on the Xbox One as a note. If you go and buy this today, there is a regular PS4 case version of this. This is the day one version as a collector's note that came with a steelbook case with Kazuma and Haruka on the cover. And on the back is a picture of Kazuma's back tattoos. This tattoo. I forgot to mention, back tattoos are a big thing in Yakuza culture in real life. They kind of exemplify the personality of the owner of the tattoo, and that's kind of a theme that's played on throughout the Yakuza series, and I love that. Check the tattoos. Like, I always pause the game just to look at them. Luckily, these guys always will rip off their shirts when they're about to brawl, especially with a boss. You get a good look at the back tattoo. But yeah, Yakuza Kiwami 1, that's exactly where I would start with the series. One of my favorites in the series as well. But my favorite in terms of villains in a lot of other areas is Yakuza 2 and its re-release Yakuza Kiwami 2 on the PlayStation 4. So, brief overview of the story. Year after the events of Yakuza 1, Kazuma is living with Haruka, and the first game had the Tojo clan fighting internally. This time, the threat comes from outside the clan, the Omi Alliance, who are a major enemy throughout the series. The Omi Alliance is a Yakuza clan based in the Kansai area of Japan, the Osaka region of Japan. And that is another city that Kazuma gets to explore in this game. You have the original Kamurocho of Tokyo, and you also have Sotenburi of Osaka to explore. So you get two full cities in this. And the strongest part of this game that I really want to emphasize is the villains. Yakuza 2 introduces Ryuji Goda, my favorite villain in the whole series. In the first game, there are some great villains. However, none of them really step to Kazuma physically. He's a big, strong guy who knows how to fight. There wasn't too much of a physical threat if he wasn't outnumbered. Ryuji Goda changes that. He's a bit bigger than Kazuma. He's younger. He's got something to prove. He's meaner. He is the perfect rival to him. Like Sasuke, Naruto right here for my anime buddies. Like, just two naturally opposed, equal but opposite forces. I love that. I love this game for that. Some fantastic boss fights. This is one of the best stories in Yakuza, just the Tojo clan and the Omi Alliance, the Omi clan clashing. It brings in some things from Kazuma's past. The Korean Mafia gets involved. It's insane. I love this one. I've replayed this one multiple times just for the villains. And yeah, check it out. You want to see the Dragon of Dojima? That's Kazuma's title. Dojima is his former subsect of the clan. And the Dragon of Kansai, the region of Japan, that's Ryuji Goda. You want to see the two dragons really fight? You got to check this one, Yakuza 2, my favorite one. All right, moving on to Yakuza 3. This is also released on the PlayStation 3 as well as the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. This is probably the weakest game in the series, in my opinion. And that's not to say it's bad. It's just that all the other ones are just better. Like, all these games are good, but all the other numbered titles are really, really great. This one's just good. After the events of Yakuza 2, for reasons that will be revealed in the story if you play them, Kiryu has to run an orphanage in Okinawa on a beach, and it's just a huge part of the game. Like, the opening hours of this are you just kind of doing mundane tasks. It picks up a little bit, and there's some really cool villains and some really cool parts involving, like, some really outlandish things. Like, the CIA gets involved, and there's a twin plot involved. Like, you always got to have evil twins. I won't say with who, but it gets a little wacky, but it never really quite reaches the heights of the first two games, especially in the villain department. That's totally subjective, I understand, but even though this is a great game, I think a hero is really judged by his villains, and the villains in this are just kind of weak compared to what we saw before. However, this was a bridging point. Back in the day, this was the first PlayStation 3 Yakuza, so it almost felt like a testing bed. The PlayStation 3 version had some cut content that didn't make it to the West, but that was later added into the PS4 and Xbox One version, so keep that in mind. But yeah, Yakuza 3, good game, just the weakest in the series in my opinion, but if, you got to check it out if you want to know what's going on in the next game, which is excellent. It's a fan favorite, and that is Yakuza 4, released on PS4 and PS3, as you can see in front of me, and as well as the Xbox One very recently. This is a fan favorite for a reason. This one mixed things up. In the prior three titles, you always play as Kazuma Kiryu. However, in Yakuza 4, you get 4 protagonists, and they're all pretty damn different. So, in this one, you play as Shun Akiyama, who is a very cool loan shark. Think Spike Spiegel thrown into a PS3 game and made into a loan shark. Then you play as Taiga Saijima, a big, bulky ex-con who's been in prison for 25 years, heavy. He dwarfs Kazuma in raw size and power. He's all about throwing enemies. He kind of looks like that dude from that terrible game, Hatred, black hair. You don't want to mess with him, but of course he's got a heart of gold. And then you play as Masayoshi Tanamura, a cop who's helping illegal immigrants in various ways, like throughout Japan, because he has connections to them. He is very defensive, very light on his feet, all about counters. And then at the end of the game, you play as Kazuma, and I swear, even though all those guys sound nuts and very disjointed, they're in fact all connected. And that's one of my favorite things about the game. You go through all these stories with these 4 characters and how it all ties up at the end. Because they don't know each other in the beginning, and somehow through various threads and just good writing, they all meet up at the end, and it's amazing. If I had any complaints, it's that you play as Kazuma last, and this really isn't, he's like his game. Like, he's really not the star. It's really the 3 new characters, and that was kind of a theme for this era of Yakuza. Kazuma had done a lot. He was the only main character in 1, 2, 3, and they wanted to kind of shift the focus to other characters. However, those other characters were excellent in Yakuza 4. Good villains, not the best, but still a fantastic game. Like I said, just how they bring them all together is really great. And having 4 distinct characters all with different skill trees added a lot of replay, a lot of time to this game. Like, you could really sink hours into this one. So Yakuza 4, one of the best in the series, and definitely a fan favorite. But moving on. So, I'm going to go over every U.S. release of Yakuza games, and most of them are just numbered titles. However, after Yakuza 4, but before Yakuza 5, there was one little title that has not yet been re-released. It is strictly on the PlayStation 3, and that is Yakuza Dead Souls. Yes, so this is, of course, during the zombie craze that was going on like 10 years ago, with Walking Dead and Dawn of the Dead and Dead Rising. Like, Yakuza had to get on some of that zombie money, and Left 4 Dead, how dare I forget. So this is a non-canon spin-off game where you play as Kazuma, Ryuji Goda, Shun Akiyama, and Majima in a zombie shooting game. Like, this is the only Yakuza that primarily uses firearms. A villain that looks like Michael Jackson unleashes a plague that turns people into monsters and zombies. That's the plot, and you have to stop them. You have to gun them down. in a variety of ways. This is like a 10-hour game. It's like a $10 game as well. This is a cheap game. It's not the most refined thing. It's not like super deep. It's silly. It's really weird that Yakuza made a zombie shooting non-canon game. However, you can get a few laughs out of this. Like, since it's non-canon, they kind of go above and beyond with some of the wackiness. Like, Ryuji Goda gets a machine gun arm. Kazuma gets like a sniper rifle. One of my favorite parts, by the way, that may make this game worth buying alone is that Kazuma does not like firearms. He likes his fists, as evidenced by all the prior games. He always fights hand-to-hand. He's honorable. He doesn't want to shoot the zombies at first. So he just tries to punch them. The undead. Yeah, he has to be urged to not continue to punch zombies to death because you can't do that, and to actually shoot them. It's a great moment in the game. But anyway, this is a fun, silly little game that's like glitchy and weird, but worth checking out. It's got a charming personality. Yakuza Dead Souls. If you skip it, you ain't missing much. But hey, have a few laughs. But the next game is not something you should skip. Tied with Yakuza 2, I really go back and forth over which one of these two are my favorite, is this next title, and that is Yakuza 5. Now, there's a bit of a story with this one, so bear with me. You're probably wondering why I'm holding a Japanese copy of this game. So this game came out in 2012 in Japan. However, it didn't come to the United States until 2015. The Yakuza games were not as popular as they were today at this time. Yakuza 1 through 4 were not huge sellers. However, they decided to not bring Yakuza 5 over to the United States. A few years later, however, Sony had a campaign called Building the List, where they asked fans what Japanese titles would they like translated, localized, and brought over to the United States for the PlayStation 4 Vita. Fans were allowed to pick from a variety of games. Yakuza 5 was the unanimous winner. Fans demanded that Yakuza 5 come to the United States. Even though it was 2015, a full 2 years after the PlayStation 4 had launched, it was going to come to the United States as a downloadable only PlayStation 3 game. This is where I got into the series because I thought that was so odd. Like, there was such a demand for a game on last gen hardware to come here. There had to be something to it. As you know, I'm a huge Sega fan. I played the Shenmue games. I heard there was some similar DNA to them. So I'm like, you know what? Before Yakuza 5 comes out, let me get caught up on the series. And of course, I ended up loving it. Then Yakuza 5 came out in December of 2015 in America. And I sunk hundreds of hours into it. I love this game. Yeah, all the Yakuza games are special. All of them have heart. This one has the most heart. I can say that without a shadow of a doubt. Yakuza 2 may have the best villains, maybe the best story. But Yakuza 5 has the best soul. You play as 5 characters in this. They really wanted to up the ante in Yakuza 4. You play as Kiryu, of course, Kazuma Kiryu. You begin the game with him, and he's a taxi driver in the beginning of this game. It's the only time you really get to drive in the game, and yeah, you get to do some taxiing. Taiga Saejima returns, but he's shaved his head. He's still jacked up, big, fights like a truck, fantastic. Shun Akiyama appears, my Spike Spiegel loan shark. Then there are 2 new playable characters. There is Shimada, a baseball player whose story kind of seems irrelevant for a little bit, but it ties in a little bit. And he ends up being kind of the comedic relief of the game, and he's pretty cool. And then for the first time in the series, you get to play as Kazuma's stepdaughter, adopted daughter, whatever you want to call her, Haruka. And her section of the game is interesting. It's polarizing, but I loved it because I love rhythm games, and that's what it is. At her age, Haruka wanted to be a pop star, and to do that, you need to sing and dance by hitting buttons in proper timing, just like any rhythm game. And some people don't like it, but I loved it. But that's neither here nor there. Through these 5 characters' stories all connecting, you get the sense that this may have been the last Yakuza game, or they at least wanted to end this era of the series on a bang, with a bang, and they really did. I can't recommend Yakuza 5 enough. I feel like if you wanted to stop early in the Yakuza games, if you didn't want to play them all, you got to play up to 5. 5, I want to make an entire video about. It's a huge game too. Most of the Yakuza games are between 20 and 30 hours. If you don't want to 100% them, if you don't want to do all the mini games. Yakuza 5's main story is 50 hours because each of the 5 characters have like an 8 to 10 hour story, And that's great. You really get your bang for your buck with that one. But it was the biggest Yakuza game to date, and I absolutely love it. I couldn't suggest it enough. Please check that one out. It was brought over here for a reason. Luckily, it was finally brought over, a physical edition was brought over to North America with what you see right here, and that is the Yakuza Remastered Collection, which is a collection of the prior 3 titles. Yakuza 3, 4, and 5 were all made in 1080p, 60 frames per second, brought to the PlayStation 4, and put into this collection right here. It's fantastic. That is the preferred way to play 3, 4, and 5, or you can download them also as well on the Xbox One. What you are seeing here is also the collector's edition, the red version, which I keep sealed for the reason that it is actually pretty valuable right now. But it came with a case for Yakuza 5 on PS3, kind of to honor the fact that never got a physical release. You could put it on the shelf and say, hey, I have Yakuza 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 on my shelf. They knew that fans loved Yakuza 5. That was the game that got me interested in the series, so I suggest you check it out. Like I said, though, you have to play these games in order or the story won't make sense. But Yakuza 5, I just wanted to gush about that one. So, moving on. After Yakuza 5, the series went in a few different directions. A few spin-offs came out, only in Japan. Spin-offs had been coming out for Yakuza for years, and unfortunately none of them have come to the U.S. In the last couple of years. Hopefully one day they will. There had been 2 games on the PSP called Yakuza Black Panther, based around another character entirely that I know nothing about because there's very few translations of it. There are games like Yakuza Ishin and Kenzan, where they take place in feudal Japan and Bakumatsu Japan, like Civil War Japan. All kinds of crazy titles. Yakuza really started to splinter out into a bunch of titles that I really wish get brought here, but until they do, I can't talk about them too much. You can import them, but as far as I can tell, many of them do not have English subtitles, so good luck. But after a bit, they wanted to bring the series back to earth, and they did with the wonderful Yakuza 0. This is where Yakuza got big in the US. Yakuza was a scary series to approach. You had 5 numbered titles that you had to play through from beginning to end to understand. People didn't want to do that, or maybe there wasn't enough interest. Yakuza 0 came out 2 years after its Japanese release in 2017. It came here in 2017, 2015 in Japan. And for whatever reason, this game just exploded. It had fantastic reviews, and it was a good way to start the series. So, what is Yakuza 0? Yakuza 0 is a prequel to Yakuza 1. It takes place in 1988 Japan, and you play as both Kazuma Kiryu, a young 20-year-old Kazuma, and 24-year-old Goro Majima, back when he was running a club before he kind of went nuts. You get to see the events that lead up to Yakuza 1, how these guys made their bones, as it were. Kazuma's back tattoo isn't even done in this game. And it's just fantastic. They both play very differently. You don't choose when to play as them. They go back and forth. Their stories are parallel, but they never intersect. And this is a special game for a reason. It's many people's favorite. It's not mine, but not to say it's not one of my favorites. I still think 2 and 5 are tied for the best, but this has great characters, great villains, but particularly Majima's story. Like, Kazuma has a good story in this where he's framed for a murder that he didn't commit, and so on and so forth. But like, Majima is very emotional, added depth to that character and made him even more of a fan favorite. He wasn't just some mad dog. So this is one that many people say, hey, you can start with Yakuza 0. It's a great game. It'll get you interested, and you can go on from there. And that's true. You can start with Yakuza 0, and that's a fine option. However, I would say still start with Yakuza Kiwami, Yakuza 1. And I'll tell you why. Maybe this is a poor analogy, but let's talk Star Wars real quick. When I recommend Star Wars to like the 3 people on Earth who haven't seen it yet, I would say you start with the originals. You start with the middle trilogy. So, because like when you go back and you watch the prequel trilogy, things have more weight. Like when characters are introduced in the original Star Wars prequels, like Yoda, C-3PO, or when Anakin puts the Darth Vader mask on, they have weight because you go, oh, that's how that began. And that's nice. Like, there's a gravitas to characters who appear in Yakuza 0. Like, when a younger version of character X appears, you kind of, like, stand there in awe and go, oh, that's their beginning. And I think that's great. And that's lost if you play this first and go on to Yakuza 1. And given that like that's a natural progression, that's chronologically how the story goes, I think all prequels are designed to give you that awe, like, oh man, that's how that began. That's how, like, that's the significance of this, like, or that's how that started. So like with many franchises, I don't suggest you start with the prequel. I suggest you start with the first one. Maybe do the prequel right after one. You could do 1-0-2, or like, that's probably one of the best ways to do it. Maybe you can play 0 early on, but I don't recommend you do it first. It is a wonderful game. This is a long one, second only to Yakuza 5, by the way, in terms of sheer story length. Great game. What you see in front of you, Collector's Note, is the Business Launch Edition. Let's open that up just so you can see. This is the regular version of the game. It has the same cover, but this came with a kind of a cool bonus that I just really wanted to have, so let me get that out for you. Since Majima runs a club in this game, the collector's edition came with a series of, and forgive me for having trouble, business card holders. This is cool. So the front of the card holder has Kazuma's tattoo on it, and the back of it has Majima's back tattoo on it. And inside are cards for his club, Goro Majima. Like, this is cool. This is like just a cool bonus that they didn't need to throw in, but I'm glad they did. I guess that those are his series of girls that you can rent. And of course, Kazuma's card. But yeah, you can still get these, but they're a little pricey. The collector's edition of 0 is kind of up there, but if you can't get it, don't worry about it. It's just the silly card holder that weirdos like me like. You can still get the game and enjoy it. And luckily, if you're an Xbox owner, it just got released on Xbox One as well. And moving on to the final game in the Kazuma Kiryu saga, and that is Yakuza 6. I have very mixed feelings on this game. It's not my least favorite, 3 is, but this is probably my second least favorite. As a finale, I felt somewhat shorted on this one. This game looks the best out of the Yakuza games. There was a new engine for this one. Their combat is some of the tightest. Some people complain that the areas that you're in this game, which is, of course, Kamurocho, is smaller than the prior versions of the city. It didn't really bother me. It's like barely noticeable. And you have a new city in this one as well, Yokohama. But I must say, for the finale, I was just upset that many of the side characters that you had come to know throughout the Yakuza series aren't featured that much. Yeah, Kazuma in this goes to another city and meets a brand new cast of characters that kind of feel like they're trying to replace the old cast, and I just didn't feel for them. I did not care for them as much as these characters had been built up for games and games and games. So it's very much just Kazuma and Haruka of the original cast in this game, and then a bunch of newcomers that are okay, but not great. So even though the combat was the best, the visuals were the best, some of the mini games were the best in this, I have to say, I still think 5 may have been where they should have ended Kazuma's story, but 6 is a solid game. There's some fantastic parts. The very end, which I won't even come close to spoiling though, is very satisfying and fantastic, and I do mean the very end. But if you're looking for some more action, like a solid goodbye to characters like Majima or Saejima, who would become very important to the story, you're not really going to get it in Yakuza 6. That's debatable. If you disagree, please talk about it in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Keep in mind, I like this game a lot. This is still a great game. It's just not as great as some of the prior titles. That's my opinion. However, like I said, this was the end of the Kazuma Kiryu saga of Yakuza games. Very sad. I loved it. And I'm even though Kazuma is legendary, it is time, I believe, for a new hero to kind of rise up. I mean, they can only tell so many stories with this character, and if they kept going, it would have threatened to be stale. I mean, I won't say no if they ever bring him back or go back into his past and see other things, but I'm not sure if going with Kazuma any further would have been the right thing to do. But that's not what Sega did. For the title that would be in between Yakuza 6 and 7, they went with a spin-off title, Judgment, starring Yagami, a detective in the same area, Kamurocho of Japan. But he is not a Yakuza. He's friends with the Yakuza, with many Yakuza. He was like pseudo-raised by them. They're all around. But no, you are a detective, an ex-lawyer. And you must track down a very bizarre serial killer with a very weird way of killing people. And the story in this one is huge and fun. And they really went for it with this. They wanted to kind of do something different after Yakuza. And they really did. That only thing I have with this game really should have been called like Yakuza Judgment. Like, that's been said in other people's videos, but like, if you're just walking by, you may not even know that this is part of the Yakuza series. But yeah, this is a great game. And like I said, it was time for Kazuma to take a break. However, when I actually played this, and I really loved it, this is a great game, I may have changed my mind slightly to what I said earlier. I had a little trouble liking Yagami as much as Kiryu. And going forward, that's going to be kind of an issue for me. I'm going to need to get over as a fan how great Kiryu was. Sega needs to prove to me that they can continue the series without him. And that leads me to the last title. However, before I move on, I just want to mention that this game is very soon getting re-released on the PlayStation 5 with better load times and better textures and all the bells and whistles of the PlayStation 5. However, your save file does not carry over. So when you choose to play this, pick your version and you have to stick with it. PlayStation 4 or 5, there is no cross-save. It sucks, but that's the way it is. But let's move on to that next title, like I said, and that would be Yakuza 7, Like a Dragon, or just Yakuza Like a Dragon, which I won't be talking about today because of two reasons. Number one, I don't have it because I'm waiting for the PlayStation 5 version. And number two, I just kind of wanted to focus on the Kiryu part of the saga. And that's going to wrap it up pretty much for that. I just wanted to go through this series that I fell in love with for so many over the last couple of years, and that has captured the hearts of so many. And I hope somewhere along the way I've caught your interest in Yakuza. I've helped guide you to where to begin. Like I said, I really hope you begin with Kiwami 1 and not 0. But if you do 0, don't feel bad. That's a good starting point as well. This series is fantastic, and it's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger. They're not stopping with 7. 7 was already a success just on the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 4. When it comes to the PS5, I'm sure it's going to sell like crazy, but that is an entirely different type of game. It has a new character, Ichiban. It has turn-based combat, and all of these are in a similar vein of beat-em-ups. I love this era of Yakuza. I'm going to miss this era, but I'm very much looking forward to Yakuza 7. So, join me when I go over that video, over that game in a future video, because I'm very excited to share my thoughts with that one and hear what you guys have to say about it. So, thank you for joining me on this very long discussion on a series near and dear to my heart. My name is Mike. This has been Chip Damage. Take care of yourselves.